Right, much like the third umpire, we just took a little time before we're with you on our innings break show on ESPN Cricket for Match Day, powered by Realme X7 5G and X7 Pro 5G. Boy, we've got so much to cover. There was so much event in those 20 overs of cricket. A heck of an innings by SURYAKUMAR YADAV, by SHREYAS, IYER. Plenty of chit-chat on the umpire, including a big debate reopened on the soft signal itself. And we'll talk about England's bowlers as well. 185 is what India have managed. Sanjay Manjrekar and Ian Bell with me. Right, let's try and get as much as we can in a short span of time. So this is a challenge for the two of you, Sanjay and Ian, to play a T20 innings. I want more content in less time. So Sanjay, first thoughts on that score?
Considering heavy dew, which we've already seen signs of, the best batting pitch as per the pitch reporters, and looking at England's batting form and batting ability, I would say India at this stage, they look 50-20 runs short, but who knows?
Okay, Ian, first thoughts.
Yeah, as Sanjay just said, it looks like the best batting pitch we've had, and the dew looks a lot more than probably in the previous game. So I think England will be relatively happy. There was some really nice, I suppose, tussles along the way in that innings. With some brilliant YADAV in particular in his first game, some incredible shots. But I think England will be happy at the halfway point. But yeah, it should be a cracking game.
I will come to Sanjay and SURYAKUMAR YADAV, but I was exchanging texts with Ian Bell, who's seen Surya for the first time today. So I would love for Ian Bell to come in first in terms of someone who's not seen much of Surya Yadav in the IPL and seen that as your first evidence of what he can do in an international match. Belly, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, incredible. And I think that's, for me, again, it's not just Yadav, but I think one thing the IPL is absolutely magnificent for is players that come in. I know Yadav's not a young player as such, but it's a lot easier to make a transition into international cricket because it's just another day at the office. The expectation, everything that goes around the game is very similar. So, yeah, an incredible debut, really. I mean, that first shot, again, hooking that first ball for six and going into out over extra cover of Rashid, and just the quality of shot making or stroke play was very high. And I think India have just got so much ability and talent. It's just trying to put those pieces together now to get the right balance for the World Cup in 7 months' time. But incredible debut.
Sanjay, what is the most pertinent takeaway after that SURYAKUMAR Yadav innings for you?
The amazing thing with both Ishan Kishan and SURYAKUMAR Yadav was them taking their form and the class that we've seen in the last couple of seasons from them in the IPL straight to international cricket against, quality bowling. So that's been amazing. So it shows that their skills wasn't restricted to, reveling in domestic class bowling, but against top class bowling as well. So the temperament side of things too, especially Surya Yadav, when you waited that long to make your international debut, sometimes the debut can get you. Never did, and we saw all those high quality shots that we've grown to admire of SURYAKUMAR Yadav in IPL cricket tonight at the international level.
All right. It's just an 18-ball innings. But is that the best you've seen Shreyas Iyer bat, Sanjay?
Yes. The reason I say that is because Shreyas Iyer, over the last couple of years that we've seen him, and even in the IPL, when he's hitting the big shots, that's generally against the spinners. He doesn't have as many sixes against fast bowlers. Australia, he looked a little vulnerable to the short ball, but thanks to England's tactics of bowling the short ball, it's become progressively so much better in this series, and now he's got an affirmative sort of answer to the short ball. And today was, his best batting that I've seen against top class fast bowling, including the short ball. So yes, shots against quality fast bowling, and that's why for me, easily, this is the best T20 international innings.
Yeah, could be a vital innings depending on how this game eventually ends up, Belly. But another day where India didn't seem to quite have the answers, at least for a long period, against Mark Wood and Jofra Archer. There were overs in between where Surya and Shreyas Iyer took them on, but it continues to be almost a masterclass from Wood and Archer on how to bowl in India.
Yeah, 100%. I think there was a nice little battle, wasn't there? Again, it was a tussle here and there, and I think, like I said, England will be quite pleased. But again, I think England had to work really hard just to pull India back there at those times. And as you said, I think Jofra there with 4 wickets, and Wood, the way he's bowled through this series so far, has been incredible. And England are just going to desperate to keep those two fully fit. And in this kind of form in T20 cricket will be really important for England's World Cup chances. But yeah, it was brilliant to watch. A lot of good cricket. And I suppose that's what you like about, again, flipping it around to the the inexperienced Indian player. They're coming out with no fear, no baggage, and they're taking the England players on, which has been quite interesting to watch.
let's weigh in on the Suryakumar Yadav decision. The umpire took a long time, eventually said it was inconclusive, and went to the on-field umpire's soft signal, which was out. Let's just get into what you would have done in that situation. Sanjay, was the third umpire right?
See, the third umpire's job is to look at the evidence, and if there is evidence that is strong enough to overturn what was a soft signal on the field, he has to overturn it. And based on the evidence that he saw there, and there was clearly one still picture that saw, which led you to believe that the ball was touching the turf. Having said that, I think what has to be incorporated in all the replays that the third umpire gets, especially with tricky low catches, is that they get real-time replay as well. Because he looked most out, Surya, when we saw the real-time replay of that catch. Once we slowed it down, put the zoomer on it, he looked more out. So if I was a third umpire, I would have kept it very simple. I've got evidence there which seemed to suggest that the ball is touching the ground, and I would have ruled that as not out.
Ian?
Yeah, well, I think it's very hard. Again, it's amazing how an umpire can judge a soft signal from 50 yards. We understand close catches and certain things that happen close to the bat. Certainly in test match cricket, you get a bit of a feel for that. But to judge something that's so far away and give a soft signal is a real tough thing to do. So whether that should happen and just leave the whole thing up to the third umpire would be an interesting one. But yeah, as it all gets, generally when things get slowed down more often and you get a feel for it, you get a bit more of an opinion that it has bounced. But for me there, I think if the soft signal was either way, it would have stayed that way, if that makes sense. Or if there was no soft signal, I think it would have been given not out.
Okay, so is that...
quickly a big takeaway from that particular instance, and that incident would be that the ICC also incorporate the real-time replay as a standard protocol for the third umpire to see. Yeah.
Okay, I got that. But Ian, so for you, that's okay. It could have gone either way. It's not one that was conclusive enough to overturn the on-field soft signal. You're okay?
I don't think it was at that time. I mean, it would have been very big to say. England would have been unhappy if that was overturned. I think there's a balance, isn't there? Because I'd imagine umpires would have looked at Milan at the time and he said, I've caught the ball. So you've got to sort of, in that spirit of the game, you need to trust the fielder as well. So that's sort of where they've tried to use that in, I would have thought, their decision as well. So there's a balance, isn't there, between not do you go that hasn't carried and you don't trust Milan the fielder, and then there's all sorts of balances to be had on the field at that time. I think they've gone the safe route by going with the fielder, giving it out, and then let the third umpire overturn anything that looks really bad, to be honest with you.
All right. Now, I have no doubt that the fielder might well think he's caught it. So there's no questioning the integrity of the fielder. It's just about what the replay in that time shows. Now, you open another interesting point, which has triggered a debate on social media too, on whether the soft signal makes sense in itself when there's adjudication to be made at the boundary from the umpire who's several yards away. So is that something that needs to be looked at again? Maybe just take away the soft signal and allow for the TV umpire to judge this independently without what could at times confuse you more if there is an on-field soft signal. Ian?
I would probably say so. From that distance, again, to judge something that's 50, 60 yards away is particularly hard, isn't it? So it does raise questions, there's no doubt. And I reckon if there was no soft signal there, I think the third umpire would have given that not out.
As it turns out, Sanjay, we also saw one more incident where the soft signal's sanctity can be questioned when the Washington Sundar wicket was being looked at. You're asking the umpire again for a soft signal there when it's about millimeters, again, 60, 70 yards away, on whether the fielder's foot is touching the rope.
Yeah, but soft signals are not only for, boundary catches. Soft signals also applicable to a catch taken, say, by the square leg umpire. And the field right there, I mean, the umpire there would have a better view. And having done enough, television coverages and commentated on, matches, I've seen many times with low catches. Once you slow it down, the picture becomes grainy, and because it's two-dimensional, you sometimes, get some kind of, a different view of what actually happened. So I don't mind the soft signal at all, because not only with 75, 80 meters, because it is part of the protocol, they have to give some kind of soft signal. But if you look at that particular Suryakumar, catch, and you play it real time, and you'll see that's what the umpires on the field would have seen, and it looked very out when you see it in real time. But once you slow it down, then the doubts come. I have absolutely no issue with soft signal. It's just another sort of perspective.
All right, fair enough. Yes, Ian. And what I wanted to ask as a follow-up to that was, should the soft signal be removed for the boundary catches? Keep it for the close-in catches, but then how do you sort of make that kind of distinction? What's a good enough view for the umpire and what's not? Yes, Ian?
Well, it's a good one for the ICC, isn't it, that? But I think, you're right. I think, like, for me, again, you want to keep the umpires. Like I said, it's very hard for most fielders when they're going for low catches. You generally feel like that you go off your feel, don't you, of how it goes in your hands. So there's no fault on the fielders' behalf. But I think making decisions that are so far away in a soft signal is a very difficult thing to do. And maybe you just take that away from the umpires for the distance boundary catches.
Okay,
but I have a different view on that. Let's not get like, as it is so many technicalities in the game. So soft signal for 40-meter catches and no soft signal for 75. Let the soft signal be there, and the third umpire be trained not to get too carried away by what the soft signal is, and just look at the evidence that he's got in front of himself. And when it becomes like a marginal call and it's not very conclusive, you go back to the umpires on that.
Yeah, I guess it's an interesting one, isn't it? We're very keen to see if what a different umpire would have interpreted that. Sometimes it just goes down to the man who adjudicates it. Simple as that.
It's very brave for an umpire to assess that didn't carry when Milan's claiming he's caught the catch. So it'd be very brave for an on-field umpire to go, I think that's bound.
Yeah, I think
you know what I mean? So it's very hard to go that way. So it's
I think we're allotting minimal fault to the on-field umpires here. They have to make a soft signal, whether they like it or not, whether they've seen it or not. They have to make a soft signal. So it's just a debate that I guess will carry on in cricket until this stands, and it'll get further ignited when you have instances such as this. It was anyway brilliant innings from SURYAKUMAR YADAV. We will talk a little more about it. Game's chase is already underway. But let's take quick comments on perhaps what stopped India. If Sanjay and Ian don't mind sort of staying with me a bit longer, and you can stay with me as well. What stopped India from getting closer to 200? We had a good innings with SURYAKUMAR YADAV. We had a really good finish, or as good a finish from SHREYAS IYER. But what stopped India from really getting there, Sanjay?
I thought India batted superbly. They did the best they could. Unfortunately, Hardik Pandya didn't quite get going. I think he has to work on the short ball. He tries to muscle it in front of the wickets towards mid-off and mid-on, and maybe he could look to just glide it. That is one issue that he'll have to sort out. And KL Rahul's, loss of confidence, where he consumed 17 balls, 14 runs. Whether that will come to haunt India is another thing. But as I said, India did the best they could with what they had.
Okay. Fair enough. It's interesting that because we have the privilege of the luxury of having this conversation a little deeper into the innings, that Virat Kohli has given Hardik Pandya the second over to bowl. Now, that was another conversation we thought we'd bring up in the mid-innings chat, Ian, whether this bowling looked like it has the teeth to defend a score. They've got a score in excess of what they had last time, but it still requires Hardik Pandya to bowl 4 full overs. Yeah. Virat Kohli thinking a bit differently today.
Well, I think he's definitely tinkering, isn't he, around this whole series, isn't he? Trying to find different ways, different combinations, whether it's who's going to bowl in the power play and when, to his batting lineup as well. So it's no surprise, really. But yeah, it's really important that he can bowl his 4, I think, for this India unit, and then how they go about it in 7 months' time. But the more he can get out of him with the ball, the better it for India, really.
Okay, quick predictions. Last word. 185, England's game still, Ian?
I think so. I think the confidence they have at the moment and the belief in their, knocking off scores is huge. I think India's way in is getting wickets up front and putting a real squeeze on. But for me, England, the halfway point.
Yeah, I mean, it just pictures that we're getting. We also heard from Ajit Agarkar, who's at the ground doing commentary. It looks soaked. It looks more due than we've seen in a while. So it's a challenge for Rahul Chair playing his first T20I in India, Sanjay.
Yes, if it was single due, then maybe, India had a chance. But with double due, it becomes doubly difficult. Ian will have no clue what we're talking about.
Yeah, Karim pun. It's a Karim pun.
We'll tell him off air.
Yeah, Sanjay loves his Karim puns. All right. Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you, Ian. Let's pick up this chat. If India are to defend it, it should make for a fascinating conversation with the series level at 2-2. If India aren't to defend it, it still brings up a number of talking points, especially if England would get this over the line. It's still 180 plus to get. So let's see how things go and pick up the chat on ESPN Cricket for Matchday, powered by Realme X7 5G and X7 Pro 5G.